And now, the best 60-ish seconds of your week. This week, the new Congress, the 116th, was sworn in, and as predicted, Nancy Pelosi, the first woman and only woman ever to serve as Speaker of the House, was reelected to that position. She became the first person since Sam Rayburn, Mr. Sam, to be reelected as Speaker after having lost the speakership prior to that. And what was the big chat among some of the Democrats? Impeachment, including one new Democratic member referring to the President of the United States as an MFer, nice, and increased conversation about the likelihood of impeachment proceedings against the President. Now, our former governor, Ed Rendell, gave the Democrats great advice on election night when he said, focus on three words: legislate, 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 not investigate, investigate, and investigate. I'm sure he would have taken another I word, impeachment, completely out of there. But here are three truths about impeachment. One, it's still unlikely, at least under the current circumstances and what we know right now, that the House will actually vote to impeach the president. Two, if they do, there aren't anywhere near enough votes in the Senate to actually remove him from office. And three, even if the first two happens not to be true and he was removed from office, who would become President of the United States? Mike Pence, something I don't really think Nancy Pelosi and her allies really want to happen. So how much of this is just rhetorical flourishes to appeal to their base remains to be seen. But this much is increasingly clear. It inures to the Republicans' benefit to have the Democrats constantly talking about impeachment. It looks much more like the resistance stuff that didn't work for them electorally last year and won't work for them politically this year. So keep watching that one. The other eye, of course, is immigration. And there seems to be at least a little bit of a breaking up of that logjam, because the President of the United States yesterday was saying that both the Democrats and Republicans want border security. That's something he has been denying all along, saying the Democrats are against borders. He's now saying that they both want the same thing. So how they get there now becomes the question, not whether fundamentally there is that big of a breach. And can't we all come to the conclusion that basically the wall is symbolic for both sides? And once we reach that pretty obvious point, the solution ought to be a lot easier. So let's talk just for a moment about the economy, which continues to be the issue for 2020 and for 2019 leading into the presidential election year. And much of what's been going on in the economy right now has been the volatility in the markets, occasioned in no small part by the actions of the Fed. And as we tape this, the chairman of the Fed held a press conference. Very, very different from the one held in mid-December, which was a catastrophic meltdown when they had announced rate hikes and interest rate hikes. And, nothing that much had happened until he took to the press conference and had a hard time explaining what normalization meant, and the markets cratered. This time, the markets went up about 750 points. Again, a gigantic jump in one day, both on the strength of Chairman Powell's relatively passive approach and his much more dovish language, and a great job report, because the fundamentals of the economy are still very strong. And how long they can remain that way, how long we can avoid any sort of slowdown or even, God forbid, a recession, is, I think, the key to the president's political future in 2020, and what looms extremely large and we'll all want to be watching. So I'm giving you a little bit of a preview of coming attractions, is the Chinese trade deal, which is supposed to take place sometime around March 31st or a little bit thereafter. But that's going to be of enormous consequence, not only for 2019, but leading into 2020. But for now, we just want to say Happy New Year to all, a healthy, prosperous, happy, successful, and great new year. 2019 is going to be that kind of year for all, and that is the best 60-ish seconds of your week.